Shalom, everybody. This is Brian A0. Right in my car, as usual. I saw this little meme the other day. It's this lady like the 19th century, big giant white person fro, and it said, "You can't control everything, so I God put hair on your head to remind you of that," which is very true, and it kind of goes along with this whole conversation I had with a friend the other night about dreams and dream interpreters and seers and prophets and people with the gift of knowledge, gift of discernment, revelatory giftings, and generally what they call it, revelatory giftings. And in our present generation, that's kind of more acceptable, but not completely, because our generation is so inundated with psychology that everything is psychology. It's all the soul. It's all the mind, will, and emotions, and it's nothing spiritual. It's all just your mind and your soul. It's very intellectual. And the problem with anything intellectual is it's using something higher than the flesh, but less than the spirit. So like your flesh is just your instincts and your animal nature, your instinct. And then you have your soul, which is your human mind, which is logical. So it's not just instinct. It's logic. It's logical. The problem is it's lower logic, because God operates in higher logic, which is spirit, and we just kind of diminish everything down to the soul and psychology. And the other part of that is that the older generations, they didn't even believe in that. It was everything is this black and white kind of thing, and if they don't understand it, if they didn't learn about it in church for 30 years, it doesn't exist. It just doesn't. If it does exist, it must be in the dark side, because we don't get it. It's like this medieval kind of philosophy, and that if we don't understand it, is the devil. Which is how the Middle Ages looked at science. Is if we don't understand it, it must be the devil. If it's we didn't hear about it for 30 years from our preacher, it's the devil. We never saw it in the Bible before, it's the devil, every time. So people that had a prophetic gifting, a revelatory gifting, a seer anointing, that had dreams, that had visions, or dream interpreters, gift of discernment, word of knowledge, any of that, outside of being a pastor, a teacher, evangelist, the three lesser callings, the lesser fivefold, just had no use. And don't you dare say anything about using it or having it, because people will blacklist you. And when that happens, you have this gifting you don't get to use. It isolates you. It kind of pushes you outside the body. So the people your gift is meant to help don't get helped. They just go without it, because God might give you a dream to warn this person, hey, such is going to happen, you be careful. Or to warn other people about somebody. Or God might give that person a dream warning them about something. But, it's just a dream, it's just this weird thing in your head, it's just the devil messing with you. So they just totally dismiss it. And they miss the whole message. And they suffer the consequences of that. And people might say, well, God could just come and show them direct. And the thing about that is, people always want God to do something directly to them, for them, all the time, and just circumvent the entire system He created. It's like, well, why doesn't God just rain cans of soup down at the homeless shelter from the sky, little parachutes to feed the homeless people, for the same reason He doesn't just speak completely directly to everybody all the time? It's because we're designed to be interdependent. He will not override His own system just to make you happy. He has a system in place that requires people to work together to get anything done. And if they don't work together, they both suffer and it doesn't get done. And all pain motivates us. So eventually, after going without what you need long enough, you might be willing to work with somebody. To recognize this other person has a gift, you need that gift, and you have a gift, they need the gift you have, and you have to work together. And God doesn't go around circumventing His own system. Marriage and family. He created men and women to need each other. That's why He doesn't do certain things sometimes. It's because He created you to need a spouse, and the spouse is supposed to do that. And if he goes around just jumping in, filling all those needs, you'll just live in isolation forever, and you'll never be fruitful, multiply. Because why would you? You get everything a spouse would give you, get automatically get given to you. There's no motivation. So, but God designed marriage to do certain things. He's not going to circumvent that just to make us happy. He designed people to meet needs of the body. He's not going to circumvent just to make us happy. So there's a reason some people have giftings, some people don't. And in certain areas, everyone's got a gifting. They have different giftings. If one individual had all the giftings, they would live in isolation and be Superman and never need anybody, never need to work with anybody. If you never need anybody, you never learn humility, you never become teachable, you never ask for forgiveness, you never apologize. Why do we do those things? At the end of the day, it's because we need these other people. And if you don't need anybody, you're just going to be a jerk all the time. And that's not the system we created. So these people get isolated that have these giftings that the church doesn't recognize. And when they get isolated, the body misses out. Everyone they're meant to help is missing out. They have these dreams, they don't know what they mean, they miss the warning, they miss the message, they miss the growth opportunity, they miss all that. It's like they're getting these letters in the mail from God, but the interpreter got shoved out to the corner, so we don't need an interpreter. God wants to know what it means, he'll just download Chinese to us. He'll download ancient Hebrew to us. This is not how it works. So they just had this letter from God that it's unopened all the time because any of the interpreters got chased out of the room. Everyone knows that language, that spiritual language, that prophetic language, that dream language, they all got chased out. So what does it do to the person with the gifting? We see what it does to the body, they miss out. The person with the gifting gets chased out. So you have this gifting that the church just says is useless, or worse yet, it's from the devil. So everything you're called to do, according to the church, sometimes was given to you by the devil at worst, or at best it's totally useless to them. So you're totally isolated, no one understands you, you don't really have friends, you don't have close friends, you don't really have any spiritual fellowship, but you have a spiritual hunger. So what happens? Guess who finds you? Wiccans find you. Wiccans usually find you because they have a strong sense of spirituality. They very much believe the spirit world exists and there are spiritual principles, and the spirit world is constantly communicating. And they believe you do have a gifting, and you have a gifting, you have this antenna to hear from the spirit world that most people don't have, or if they have it, they just shut it off. So these people, they value your gift. They think your gift was given for a benevolent purpose by a supernatural source to help mankind, and it is very needed. So who are you going to gravitate towards? The people who see your gift is useless, or it's from the devil, or they don't understand it, they can't control it? Or you're going to gravitate towards the people who say, no, your gift was given to you by a higher source for a benevolent purpose, and it's very much needed. If you're in isolation long enough, it does things to you. You lose your cognitive abilities, you lose your social ability, and you get really thirsty for some kind of socialization, connection, especially spiritual connection. If you're a prophetic person, you have to have a spiritual connection. And a person that's thirsty long enough will drink from a mud puddle. They will. They'll drink salt water. They'll drink their own pee. They will drink anything that didn't make sense 3 days ago. But 3 days in the desert by yourself with no source of water being fellowship, you will drink anything. And that's the danger of isolation. So the church not only hurts itself, it hurts the person that they're isolating. But then the person that gets isolated, what do? Who are they working for? All those gifts and talents that God gave them to do something for His kingdom with? Well, guess whose kingdom they're going to be building with it now? The kingdom they got chased out to. It's like that movie 300, where the big Spartan is like an ogre-looking guy. He's like an ogre, and he wanted to use his giftings to help Leonidas, and the Spartans win because the Persians. And Leonidas like, nope. Well, you can get water. That's it. We really don't have any use for you because you don't fit in this exactly like everyone else does. You didn't grow up in this, you don't fit in this, You don't look like us. So go over there and just fetch water for us, or move bodies around for us, or do some grunt work nobody wants. So the enemy comes along. So, oh no, we very much need you in our army. We love what you do. You're designed to be a warrior. Come fight for us. It calls Leonidas a battle. Is because, in the movie anyway, not in real life, but because there's this person who really wanted to use their gifting for his side, but he spurned them. The pastor of the Spartans totally spurned this person, and they got isolated, and then isolated long enough, they lost their principles. And they lose their principles, you end up fighting for the enemy. So not only did the church miss out on all the help it could have received, the interpreter, the person with the gifting, the interpreter, is out in the cold by themselves suffering. It's not loving your neighbor. And then on top of that, they end up being recruited by the other side, and they're building the kingdom of darkness instead of the kingdom of light, which could have all been prevented. But there's this thing called a Nicolaitan system. In scriptures, the Nicolaitans, the book of Revelation, like chapter 2, chapter 4, Nicolaitan is those who dominate the lay people. And it's warned about it. It says, do not tolerate the deeds of the Nicolaitans. And I hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which you also hate. And that has twofold meaning. One was the Nicolaitans were historically a group of people who blended the way with paganism, which is like modern Catholicism, modern Kabbalah, lots of different things. It's the way the first century faith, Yeshua and the apostles, blended with paganism. And they did that because of the trade guild. If you were a good example. So if you're a blacksmith, you worship Vulcan, which is like this Roman god, makes metal. Or you're a soldier, you worship Mithra, etc. So every occupation in a trade guild, you don't have a business license unless you're in this trade guild. You have to go to the meetings of the trade guild. If you go to the meetings of the trade guild, they're usually big drunken orgies. Or at the very least, they're offering food and wine to their pagan god while they're there. It's like a Freemason thing. So you can't be in the trade guild unless you go to these pagan festivals. You can't go to the pagan festivals. You don't make a lot of money to contribute to the church. So therefore, well, we need money. You need money. Church needs money. So you got to go do some pagan stuff. That's okay. That's one part of the Nicolaitan. It's a historical meaning. There's a deeper spiritual meaning people also apply, which is those who dominate the lay people, which means that there's a few select people, and they do everything. And no one aside from them has any kind of spiritual gifting or anointing other than saying blah, blah, blah like sheep and put money in the bowl. And that's all they're good for. There's like shepherd, sheep, period. And that's it, period. Unless you're a member of a clergy, which is generally you went to school for 6 to 8 years, born into the right family. If you're a Sadducee, or in the Middle Ages, if you're a monk, you had to be from a certain family. It's very expensive to pay to get in the monastery. So usually to be in the right family, you had to have 6 to 8 years of college and some kind, and jump through all these hoops. Otherwise, you're completely and utterly useless. And this Nicolaitan system was developed in a lot of the southern churches where you're a pastor or you're useless. There is nothing in the middle. And people with prophetic giftings, they don't want them in the pulpit, for sure. So you're not going to be a pastor, so you just have no gifting at all, period. It's unauthorized usage to have a gifting. Because the only gifting that matters is evangelism and teaching. If you don't have evangelism and teaching, they got no use for you. Shove you out the door or sit down and shut up. So it's a Nicolaitan system of these are chosen few and everyone else is useless. So that's what's warned about in Revelation, and Yeshua hates that. He gave a fivefold ministry for a reason. Paul said everybody's a member of the body for a reason, because everyone has some kind of purpose. Even evil people have a purpose. But the church has a Nicolaitan system where if you don't have the gift, if you're not preaching, teaching, or evangelizing, you're useless. an apostle comes in with a bigger vision, and the prophet comes with a literal vision sometimes. But that's the Nicolaitan thing. But how did they do that in the quote-unquote Old Testament, where you had priests, and you're not a Levite, you're just an Israelite, and you'd be a merchant or a farmer or whatnot. Well, they did have something still, because God didn't want this system being the only system developing. So they had prophets, and they also had Nazarite. Anybody be a Nazarite. You just choose to be a Nazarite. You're making yourself a priest almost. You don't serve in the temple, but you serve God in whatever capacity He wants you to do it. Could make you a prophet, could make you a judge, could make you God knows what. But you agree to certain requirements, or your parents do before you're born, then you grow up and agree to it. And you're Nazarite, which means, God, I'm here, whatever you want me to do, actually means set apart one. Nazir, I will do it. How crazy, goofy it is, I will do it. Samson was a Nazarite. Yeshua might have been a Nazarite. Paul took a Nazarite vow for a time. So these guys are just wide open to whatever God wants them to do. And there's the prophets. Sometimes the prophets were Levites, like Jeremiah was a Levite, but there's no temple to really speak of, because the Babylonians burned it down. Daniel, same thing. Daniel is probably a Levite. Really no temple to serve in as a Levite. So these guys were priests. But there are other people like Elijah was a Tishbite. I'm not sure he's an Israelite to begin with, of any tribe. But he was a Elijah. They don't seem to be from Levi, but they were prophets. Who was the other one that's a shepherd? Amos. Yeah, Amos shepherd. Yanks dude out of the field, herding cattle, just yanks them out of the field. Because God will use people outside the system to keep the system in check. When the system gets corrupted, when the system gets stale, when the system gets overrun with the Nicolaitan system, the system is no longer serving God, serving the people. It's just monsters kind of feeding itself. God will call people outside of the system, not trained by the system, not indoctrinated by the system, to set the system back in order. On a national level, where the prophet spoke to the kings, on the church level, where the prophet in the congregation speaks to the pastor, on an individual level, where God might give someone a direct word. And of course, there's all these borders you got to operate within, and there's boundaries of this thing, and there's verifications and whatnot, discernment. That's a whole different YouTube video. But God sends people with revelatory giftings to keep the system in check. And there's also some things the system doesn't handle. Going to church once a week doesn't help you with everything in life. When you're the preacher preaching a sermon to 500 people in a room, it's going to help you with a whole lot of things. It's going to keep you on track. It's going to keep you consistent. It's going to give you routines. It's going to give you family. It's going to give you accountability. Give you some great things. But there are certain things that are very personal that it's just not going to address, because you're in a giant room full of people and you need this one-on-one thing. There's also the fact that sometimes the system gets broken and the system doesn't fix itself. If you had a system where there were apostles over multiple churches, there's at least somewhere to go up to. Like even the Catholic Church has, like each little cathedral has an archbishop, a cardinal, etc., someone they report to. But now all we have is these individual churches with no oversight of anybody. So there might be a prophetic person in the church to kind of counsel the pastor. Because the pastor is like a mini king. It's like a feudal king. He's like the king over this little tiny king and judge over this little congregation, and the prophet's like the advisor to the king. So things getting out of control in that system, where the system's broken, or the system is just missing something. That's where the prophet and the local level comes in. And there are people that are prophets to the nation. But we have so valued the system, the rigid system of the pastor, the deacons, and nobody else matters, that we've shoved all the prophetic people aside. And when something gets broken, it doesn't get fixed, because the system is so tunnel visioned on keep perpetuating the system. Nobody touched the system. Nobody altered the system. just leave it be how it is, then it just hobbles on for centuries, and no one fixes it. I mean, I think Martin Luther probably had some kind of prophetic gifting, and then he saw what was wrong and fixed it. But the Catholic Church had chased all those people out for so many centuries. It killed those people. It got to the point it just was just broken beyond repair. Absolutely off the deep end in every way possible. Off the deep end, because anybody that was prophetic in gifting or in action got killed because they're attacked the system, and the system wasn't about God anymore. The system wasn't about people anymore. The system was about perpetuating the system and maintaining the system. So I tried to kill John the Baptist. He was outside. He grew up in the system for a time. He was supposed to be the top person in the system, and they killed him. So the system killed him. The system helped the government kill him. But there are people in the body with these giftings for a reason. Therefore, help the individual, to help the congregation, to help the body as a whole, to help the nations. And if we shove these people out to the edge of the camp here, or outside the camp, there are consequences to that, to the individual, to the congregation, to the body as a whole, to the nation. We shove these people out because they're not one of these only two giftings that matter to us. Because denominations are built upon gifting. Charismatics have to be at least prophetic. A lot of people charismatic aren't. They're just forced to pretend to be. You're a Baptist, you have to be an evangelist. If you're a non-denominational, you have to be a pastor. If you're Messianic, you have to be a teacher. If you're black, you have to be an apostolic. You know, if you're these black churches, CME and such, in a lot of ways. But we miss out everybody else because that's the only gifting that matters in that building. And either you pretend to have it, if you don't, which doesn't help anybody, or you just sit down and shut up. And we miss all these other giftings people have. It's like trying to build a house where you got an electrician's the only job that matters. So everybody pretend to be an electrician, even if you're not. Maybe, hopefully the place doesn't burn down. But we got no running water because we don't like plumbers. We have no use for plumbers. We don't want any plumbers here. So you can build this whole house and no running water. And how does that end up? It doesn't. It doesn't end up well. It's really stinky. So that's what we're doing with people with revelatory gifting. We're just chasing them out because they don't have this gifting we value as much, or maybe because it scares us, we don't understand it sometimes. And there is some scary, weird, crazy stuff in the charismatic movement, which is a little different from being prophetic. When I say prophetic, I mean spirit-led and spirit-filled. I don't mean charismatic, because that's a whole other ballgame. But people that hear from God in unusual ways, or understand it when someone else is talking to God in unusual ways, is a revelatory gifting. And that's what I mean. So we can't chase these people out. Let's not repeat the mistakes of the Middle Ages. If we don't understand it, and we don't have it, and we haven't heard about it for 30 years from our preacher, it must be the devil. But let's not get medieval here and create like a spiritual dark ages, which is what happens when you chase these people out of the church. And a lot of Native American blood have very strong prophetic giftings. Or certain other people groups have very strong prophetic giftings. And if you chase them out of the church, like we chased Gandhi out of the church. He tried to actually make India a Christian. He literally got chased out of the Anglican church. The Native Americans treated horribly by the church. Many of them have prophetic gifting. This list goes on and on and on. The African American community, a lot of prophetic people end up in voodoo because the American church treated them horribly. So they went somewhere else. Can't really blame them in a way. That gifting will get used one way or the other. It will be used, or that person will just kind of rot inside. But typically it gets used. So we have to make room for these people's giftings. And I know that's scary, but Study it out till you understand it. Understand what it is, what it isn't, how to tell if God's using it or the enemy's using it. But we have to make room for people's giftings. It's part of loving your neighbor. So that's my 2 cents, or my probably 25 cents by now, on not shunning people with revelatory gifting. All right, shalom, guys.